Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Body Mind Healing. My name is Maria Sanchez. I am a holistic health consultant, a family nurse practitioner, a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and a doctor in nursing practice. Today's case is depression beyond the myths. And it begins with a person saying, depression is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign that you have been strong for too long. Let's take a moment to look at depression and its myths. 1. Being strong for too long. It has become common to hear phrases such as, depression is not a sign of weakness, but of having been strong for too long. At first glance, it may sound comforting. It represents the depressed person as someone heroic who has carried too much weight. However, this idea can cause misunderstandings and drag the person even farther into depression. Why? Because this idea romanticizes depression. It gives it a tint of nobility and sacrifice that, instead of motivating us to seek help, actually leads us mistakenly to remain trapped in its suffering. Obviously, depression is not a sign of weakness, but if we think that depression is a medal of strength, we are running the risk of normalizing it, justifying it, and diminishing the importance of the need to heal it. And this has to do with our mind, our ego. The ego, always eager to feel recognized and justified, to avoid discomfort, to insist on staying in the known, even if it causes unease, finds in this idea the perfect trap. That is, it turns depression into an illusion of heroism instead of pushing us to take responsibility for our emotions, face reality, seek help, and take that brave step toward our healing. But reality is different. Depression does not appear because someone has been too strong. It arises when emotional wounds have not been seen, addressed, or transcended. Therefore, it's not about a lack or excess of strength, but about how the mind interprets painful experiences and clings to them. 2. Depression is not sadness. It is fundamental to distinguish natural sadness, such as that which arises when we lose a loved one, a job, or a relationship, from depression. Sadness is part of life, a healthy process that allows us to work through emotions and heal our challenges. Depression, on the other hand, is a much deeper and more persistent state. It is not only about feeling pain for what happened, but about remaining trapped in it. Depression becomes a mental loop where we relive the past again and again, constantly lamenting what already happened or obsessively projecting fears about the future. This cycle, sustained over time, generates intense suffering that drains our vital energy and manifests in symptoms such as tiredness, dejection, fatigue, dizziness, tightness in the chest, palpitations, general body pain, etc. Depression is not simply a disease in the traditional sense. It is, to a great extent, an emotional state sustained by our mental interpretations, such as thoughts of victimhood, guilt, fear, self-reproach. The initial pain, that is the test, already passed long ago, but our mind, that wounded ego, does not let it go and instead turns it into perpetual suffering. 3. The trap of the ego and the mind. As we can see, the ego plays a central role in the process of depression. When life does not happen as we expect, the ego interprets the experience as a defeat or an injustice and clings to that narrative. That is how those internal phrases arise. They abandon me, I'm not enough, they hurt me, they always ignore me, nothing will change for me, etc. Instead of looking at those wounds, working them through, and healing them, the depressed mind prefers to remain in lament and victimhood because that feels more comfortable than facing the process of transformation, and so pain becomes chronic suffering. Healing does not mean denying what happened, but rather observing it, understanding it, accepting it, learning from it, and transcending it, meaning releasing it, letting it go, liberating it. That is why healing requires a great deal of courage to sit with our wounds, to release guilt, to reconcile with the past, and to allow ourselves to live in the present where life actually unfolds. It is not easy, but it's the only way to heal. 4. The vicious cycle of depression. Depression creates this cycle that feeds itself. First, a pain or life challenge arises, then the mind, reacting from fear memories stored in the amygdala, creates pessimistic and catastrophic stories. Then these interpretations lower our energy, vitality, and inner vibration. Then that low energy attracts more negative thoughts and experiences, and then we end up trapped in a constant state of powerlessness and hopelessness, in addition to the deep impact on a physical level. In this way, what began as legitimate pain, the life challenge, ends up becoming a mental prison, a torture, a dark hole that without us realizing it, consumes us little by little. But what is the solution or path toward our healing? We need to start by recognizing that depression is real, because that is how we feel. But that does not mean perpetuating it as an identity. The way out is not in glorifying it or resigning ourselves to it, but in assuming responsibility for our healing process. Healing implies understanding, accepting, and letting go. It is an integral process that requires conscious attention and commitment to oneself. Self-awareness consists of recognizing why we have to live through what caused the depression. It is about seeking the message that life wanted to deliver to us, observing our thoughts, and noticing when we fall into lament or victimhood. It also involves accepting what was lived with gratitude, understanding that every experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and evolve. Letting go of the past, making the effort to stop reliving those painful experiences that already happened. When we realize we are being dragged by the memory, it is essential to become aware of it and change our attitude, behavior, and internal script, because that is what keeps us trapped. Living in the present, focusing our attention on what is happening here and now. In other words, returning to the present moment, to what we are doing in that precise moment, instead of remaining chained to the past, ruminating on the pain, or anticipating the future with fear. Perseverance and courage, facing the wounds and processes that led us to that emotional state, even if it hurts. Only by observing and accepting those emotions can we free and transform them. Seeking help. If we feel that the process exceeds our capacity, it is wise and necessary to seek external help. Therapy, professional support, support groups, or spiritual practices can guide us in transcending that state and at the same time straighten us along the path of healing. Can making the decision to heal cause fear? Living a depressive state after many years can feel profoundly terrifying, not only because it implies leaving behind a known way of life, but also because our body, our cells, and even our brain receptors have become accustomed to functioning with certain chemicals associated with depression. It is as if the entire organism has learned to survive amid that altered chemistry, turning it into its normality. That is why, when the possibility of healing arises, the mind and body might resist. The new generates uncertainty, the unknown is frightening. And abandoning the state we have clung to for so long can feel like losing a part of our identity. Nevertheless, that is a good sign, because fear is the first step to overcoming depression and opening ourselves to healing. In summary, Depression is not a sign of having been too strong, nor it is a medal of heroism. It is rather a deep call from the soul to stop, to go within, to attend to and heal what still hurts, what we have not yet been able to transcend. The path toward healing does not consist in romanticizing it, but in recognizing it, assuming it, and transforming it. Only in this way do we stop turning pain into suffering and opening a space for a life with greater peace, freedom, fullness, and awareness. Keep in mind that healing is returning to ourselves again and again. Until next time.